The boy was 8 years old when the hospital turned him away. His name was Ethan Miller, leukemia, stage 4. His mother Maria carried him through the emergency room doors begging for help. The receptionist looked at her insurance card and shook her head. "Sorry, we can't help you. Your policy doesn't cover this," Maria begged. "My son is dying, please." The receptionist called security. That's when the CEO walked by. Richard Hawthorne, 52 years old, designer suit, gold watch. He heard Maria crying, heard Ethan coughing, looked right at them, then kept walking. 2 hours later, Ethan collapsed in a parking lot 3 miles away. By the time the ambulance got there, it was almost too late. Almost. Ethan survived. Barely. And 6 months later, Maria Walsh stood in front of Judge Patricia Morrison with one simple question. "Why did you let my son die?" The courtroom was packed. News cameras in the back, reporters taking notes. This case had been all over the media for weeks. Hospital CEO refuses treatment to dying child. The headlines wrote themselves. Maria sat at the plaintiff's table. Her hands were shaking. She wore a simple blue dress, no jewelry except her wedding ring. Next to her sat Ethan, pale, thin, a baseball cap covering where his hair used to be. He was in remission now, but barely. He looked so small in that big courtroom chair. Across the aisle sat Richard Hawthorne. His lawyer was a man named Gerald Pierce. Expensive suit, slicked back hair, briefcase that probably cost more than Maria's car. Richard looked confident, bored even, like this was just another Tuesday. Judge Morrison walked in. Everyone stood. She was 60 years old, silver hair pulled back tight, reading glasses on a chain around her neck. She had been a judge for 23 years. Before that, a prosecutor. She had seen everything. But this case, this one was different. "Be seated." Her voice was calm, firm. Case number 8842, Maria Miller versus Richard Hawthorne and Mercy General Hospital. This is a civil case involving denial of medical treatment and emotional distress. She looked at Maria first, then at Richard. Her face gave nothing away. "Mrs. Miller, this is your lawsuit. Tell me what happened." Maria stood up. Her lawyer helped her. She gripped the podium. "Your Honor, 6 months ago, my son Ethan got sick, really sick. He had been feeling tired for weeks, losing weight, bruising easily. I took him to his pediatrician. She ran tests." Maria's voice shook. "They told me it was leukemia, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, stage 4. Judge Morrison nodded. "Go on." "The pediatrician said we needed to start treatment immediately, chemotherapy, radiation. But our insurance was through a small company. They said Mercy General was in our network, so I took Ethan there, to the emergency room." "What time was this?" "Around 7 p.m. It was a Thursday, September 14th. "What happened when you arrived?" Maria closed her eyes, remembering. "I carried Ethan through the doors. He could barely walk, he was so weak. I went to the reception desk, told them my son had leukemia and needed help. The receptionist asked for my insurance card. I gave it to her. And then she looked at it, made a phone call. Then she said our insurance wasn't accepted there." Richard's lawyer stood up. "Objection, Your Honor. The hospital does accept that insurance company. There was a coverage issue." Judge Morrison looked at him. "Sit down, Mr. Pierce. I'll let you speak when it's your turn." She turned back to Maria. "Continue." "I told her my son was dying, that we needed help. She said she was sorry, but there was nothing she could do. I begged her, 'Please, my baby is dying.' She called security." "Security was called?" "Yes, 2 men in uniforms. They told me I needed to leave." "Did they physically remove you?" "No, but they stood there, waiting. I was crying. Ethan was crying. Then Mr. Hawthorne walked by." Judge Morrison looked at Richard. "The defendant?" "Yes, he's the CEO. I recognized him from the hospital website. I called out to him. 'Sir, please, my son needs help.' He looked at us. I'll never forget that look. He looked at Ethan, then at me. Then he kept walking." The courtroom murmured. Judge Morrison raised her hand for silence. Did he say anything? No, nothing. He just walked away. What happened next? Maria's voice broke. Security escorted us out. I carried Ethan back to my car. I was panicking. I didn't know what to do. I started driving, looking for another hospital. But Ethan started getting worse. He was coughing up blood, passing out. I pulled over, called 911. We were in a parking lot 3 miles from the hospital. The ambulance took 40 minutes to get there. 40 minutes? Yes, we're in a rural area. The nearest hospital after Mercy General is 20 miles away. By the time they got to us, Ethan had stopped breathing. Ethan reached over and held his mother's hand. Maria squeezed it tight. The paramedics revived him, took him to County Hospital. That's where he got treatment, where he's been for the last 6 months. But if we had gotten help that night, if Mr. Hawthorne had just stopped, Ethan wouldn't have almost died in a parking lot. Judge Morrison looked at her notes. Mrs. Miller, I need to ask you something. Why didn't you go to County Hospital first? It's 20 miles away, Your Honor. Mercy General is 3 miles from our house. My son was dying. I went to the closest hospital. I thought that's what you're supposed to do. And your insurance? Our insurance does cover emergency care at Mercy General. I checked after. They should have treated him. They turned us away because it would have been expensive, because we're not rich, because we don't matter. Richard shifted in his seat. His lawyer whispered something to him. He shook his head. Judge Morrison turned to Richard. Mr. Hawthorne, your turn. Tell me your side. Richard stood up, adjusted his tie. Your Honor, this whole situation is unfortunate, but it's also being misrepresented. Misrepresented how? We did not refuse treatment. We explained that her insurance had specific coverage limitations. The treatment her son needed would cost upwards of $200,000. Her policy had a cap. We suggested she go to County Hospital, where they have better resources for her situation. Did you tell her that? Richard hesitated. I personally did not speak with Mrs. Miller that evening. She says she called out to you, that you looked at her and kept walking. I don't recall that specific incident. Judge Morrison raised her eyebrows. You don't recall a woman begging you to save her dying child? Your Honor, I walk through that hospital every day. I see dozens of patients and families. I can't remember every interaction. This wasn't an interaction. She says you ignored her. If I did walk past someone, I was likely on my way to an important meeting. I run a hospital with 300 employees and 500 patients. I have responsibilities. More important than a dying child? Richard's jaw tightened. That's not fair, Your Honor. Answer the question. No, of course not, but I have to prioritize. I have systems in place, staff to handle patient intake. I trust them to make the right decisions. And they decided to call security on a mother with a dying child. They were following protocol. Protocol. Judge Morrison leaned back. Tell me about this protocol. Richard's lawyer stood up. Your Honor, if I may. The hospital has clear policies regarding insurance verification. We cannot provide treatment without ensuring payment. It's not personal, it's business. Business. Judge Morrison looked at him. A child dying is business? We're a private hospital, Your Honor. We have financial obligations, shareholders. If we treated every patient without insurance verification, we'd go bankrupt. You're telling me you can't afford to treat one child? It's not about one child, it's about setting precedent. If we make exceptions, where does it end? Judge Morrison was silent for a moment. Then she said, Mr. Hawthorne, how much do you make annually? Richard glanced at his lawyer. I don't see how that's relevant. Answer the question. My salary is approximately $900,000 per year. The courtroom reacted. People gasped. Someone said, 900,000? Judge Morrison held up her hand. And this child's treatment would cost 200,000? Approximately, yes. So you make 4 times that amount every year? Your Honor, my personal income is not. I'm establishing context, Mr. Hawthorne. You make $900,000. This child needed $200,000 to live, and you walked past him. I did not know the specific details of his case. You saw a mother crying. You saw a sick child. That wasn't enough? Richard took a breath. Your Honor, I sympathize with the situation. I truly do. But we have rules for a reason. We have processes. I cannot override our entire system every time someone has a sad story. A sad story. Maria stood up, shaking. My son almost died. That's not a story. That's my life. Judge Morrison looked at her. Mrs. Miller, please sit down. I understand your anger, but let me handle this. Maria sat down, tears streaming down her face. Ethan put his small hand on her arm. Judge Morrison turned back to Richard. Let me ask you something else. After this incident, after you learned what happened, did you reach out to this family? We sent a letter through our legal department. What did it say? It expressed our regret about the situation and offered to discuss potential assistance with future medical costs. Future medical costs. What about the costs from that night? The ambulance? The emergency surgery at County Hospital? Did you offer to cover those? Richard looked at his lawyer. The lawyer shook his head slightly. No, Your Honor, we did not. Why not? Because we were not responsible for those costs. County Hospital treated him, not us. County Hospital had to treat him because your hospital refused. We did not refuse. We redirected. You redirected a dying child to a hospital 20 miles away. We gave them options. No, Judge Morrison's voice was sharp. You gave them nothing. You turned them away and hoped they'd become someone else's problem, and this child nearly died because of it. Richard said nothing. Judge Morrison looked down at her papers. I want to hear from the child. Ethan, can you come up here? Ethan looked at his mother. She nodded. He slowly stood up and walked to the witness stand. The bailiff helped him up the steps. He looked even smaller sitting there. Judge Morrison's voice softened. Hi, Ethan. I'm Judge Morrison. Hi. How are you feeling today? Okay. Tired. I understand. Can you tell me what you remember from that night? The night you went to the hospital? Ethan's voice was quiet, small. I was really sick. My mom carried me. I remember the lights were really bright and cold. It was cold. Do you remember the people there? The lady at the desk. She looked at my mom's card and shook her head. My mom started crying. I told her it was okay, that I felt better. But I didn't. I just didn't want her to be sad. Maria was crying quietly in her seat. Do you remember Mr. Hawthorne, the man sitting over there? Ethan looked at Richard. I remember a man in a suit. My mom called to him. She said, please help my son. He looked at me. I thought he was going to help. But he didn't. He just walked away. How did that make you feel? Ethan thought about it. I thought maybe I wasn't important enough. Those words hung in the air. The whole courtroom felt them. Why did you think that? Because he looked expensive. And we're not. My mom works at a grocery store. We don't have a lot of money. I thought maybe he only helps rich kids. Judge Morrison's jaw was tight. Thank you, Ethan. You can go sit with your mom now. Ethan climbed down carefully, walked back to Maria. She hugged him close. Judge Morrison looked at Richard. Did you hear that? Richard said nothing. That child thought he wasn't important enough to save, because of you. Your Honor, that's not fair. I did not. You did nothing. That's the problem. You saw a dying child and did nothing, and now you're sitting here defending it with talk about protocols and business. We have legal obligations. You have moral obligations, human obligations. That supersede your policies. Richard's face was red. Your Honor, I run a business. I cannot make decisions based on emotion. Emotion? Is compassion an emotion to you? Is basic human decency an emotion? That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Richard looked at his lawyer. The lawyer stood up. Your Honor, my client is being unfairly characterized here. He did not personally refuse treatment. He did not personally turn this family away. He was simply present in the building that night. He cannot be held responsible for every decision made by his staff. He's the CEO. That's exactly what he's responsible for. He cannot micromanage every patient intake. I'm not asking him to micromanage. I'm asking him to show basic humanity. When a mother begs you to save her child, you don't walk away. You stop. You help. That's not policy. That's being human. The lawyer sat down. He had nothing else. Judge Morrison looked at Maria. Mrs. Miller, you're suing for $2 million. Break that down for me. Maria's lawyer stood up. Your Honor, the breakdown is as follows. $200,000 for the medical costs that should have been covered by Mercy General, $500,000 for emotional distress, $1 million for punitive damages, and $300,000 for ongoing medical care that Ethan will need for the next several years. And Mr. Hawthorne is named personally in this lawsuit? Yes, Your Honor. As CEO, he set the policies that led to this situation. He personally witnessed the denial of care and did nothing. He bears responsibility. Judge Morrison nodded. Mr. Pierce, your defense? The lawyer stood up. Your Honor, the hospital acted within its legal rights. We have insurance verification protocols that are standard across the industry. We offered alternatives. We did not violate any laws. As for Mr. Hawthorne personally, he cannot be held liable for simply being present during a staff interaction. The plaintiff cannot prove he even saw or heard the interaction. Ethan testified that he saw Mr. Hawthorne, that his mother called out and was ignored. The testimony of an 8-year-old child who was severely ill at the time. His memory may not be reliable. Maria shot to her feet. He remembers. He has nightmares about it. He wakes up screaming because he remembers being turned away. Judge Morrison raised her hand. Mrs. Miller, I understand. Please sit down. Maria sat. She was shaking with rage. Judge Morrison looked at both sides. I'm going to call a short recess. When we return, I want to hear from hospital staff who were present that night. We're taking 15 minutes. The gavel came down. During the recess, Maria sat with Ethan in a quiet corner. He was pale, exhausted. Mom, I'm tired. I know, baby. Just a little longer. Can you hold on? Why didn't he help us? I don't know. Was it because we're poor? Maria's heart broke. No, sweetheart. It's because some people forget what's important. Like helping people? Yes, like that. On the other side of the hallway, Richard was with his lawyer. This is not going well, Gerald said. What do you want me to do? Apologize? It might help. Apologize for what? Following hospital policy? For being a human being, Richard. That judge is looking for any reason to rule against you. Give her a reason not to. I'm not apologizing for doing my job. Your job almost killed a child. That's not my fault. Gerald looked at him, really looked at him. You really believe that, don't you? Yes. Then we're going to lose. They went back inside. Judge Morrison called the receptionist who was working that night. Her name was Linda Chen. She was 32, looked nervous. Judge Morrison asked her to explain what happened. The mother came in with her son. She was panicked, said he had leukemia and needed help immediately. I asked for her insurance card. What did you do with it? I scanned it into our system. It came back with a flag. Her policy had reached its annual maximum. Coverage was denied for non-emergency services. Leukemia treatment isn't an emergency? The system classified it as ongoing treatment, not acute emergency. Even though the child was actively dying? Linda looked uncomfortable. The system has specific criteria. He wasn't in cardiac arrest. He wasn't hemorrhaging. So it flagged as non-emergent. Who made that determination? The computer system. The computer system decided a child with stage 4 leukemia wasn't an emergency? That's how it's programmed, Your Honor. And you didn't override it? I'm not authorized to override the system. Only the ER doctor or hospital administrator can do that. Was there an ER doctor available? There was, but he was with another critical patient, a car accident victim. I couldn't pull him away. Did you try? Linda hesitated. No, Your Honor. Why not? Because I was told to follow protocol. If the system denies coverage, we redirect to county hospital. That's the rule. Even for dying children? The rule doesn't differentiate. Judge Morrison looked disgusted. Who wrote these rules? Hospital administration, Mr. Hawthorne's office. Everyone looked at Richard. He sat stone-faced. Judge Morrison asked, Ms. Chen, you said the mother was panicked, crying, begging. Did that not factor into your decision? I felt terrible, Your Honor. I wanted to help, but I could lose my job if I override the system without authorization. So you chose your job over a child's life. Linda's eyes filled with tears. I didn't think of it that way. How did you think of it? I thought county hospital would help them. I thought they'd be okay. They nearly weren't. Linda was crying now. I'm sorry, I didn't know what else to do. Judge Morrison dismissed her. Next up was the security guard. His name was Marcus Webb, 6'4", built like a tank, but his voice was soft. Mr. Webb, why was security called? The mother wasn't leaving. Ms. Chen called us to escort her out. Did she threaten anyone? No, ma'am. She was just crying and refusing to leave. She was begging for help for her dying son. Yes, ma'am. And you removed her anyway? Margaret Walsh buried her husband on a Thursday. By Saturday morning, her son Derek showed up at the door. She was still in her bathrobe, still crying, still trying to figure out how to breathe without Richard. Derek walked in without knocking. Mom, we need to talk. Margaret wiped her eyes. About what, honey? The house. It's too big for you. You can't manage it alone. I've been managing it fine. That's not the point. Derek sat down on the couch, pulled out his phone, started scrolling. I've been thinking about this. The house is worth close to $600,000. Property taxes are killing me. It doesn't make sense for you to stay here. Margaret felt her chest tighten. What are you saying? Derek looked up. I'm saying you need to move. Find an apartment, something smaller. I'll help you look. This is my home. Mom, be realistic. You're 83. Dad just died. You can't take care of this place. I don't want to leave. Derek stood up. It's not about what you want. The house is in my name. I'm selling it. You have 30 days. Margaret stared at him. 30 days? That's more than fair. Most people would give you 2 weeks. Your father just died 2 days ago. I know when he died, Mom. I was at the funeral. Derek walked toward the door. Start packing. I'll send you some apartment listings. Derek, please. 30 days, Mom. He left. The door clicked shut behind him. Margaret sat there alone. Then she called a lawyer. 2 weeks later, they were in Judge Judy's courtroom. Margaret walked in with her cane, moving slowly. Derek strolled in behind her, phone already out, typing something. He was smiling at the screen. Judge Judy was at the bench reviewing papers. She looked up once, saw Derek on his phone, saw Margaret struggling to sit down. Her jaw tightened. The bailiff called the case. Case number 4457, Margaret Walsh versus Derek Walsh. Judge Judy didn't wait. Mr. Walsh, put your phone away. Derek looked up. What? I said put it away, now. Derek fumbled, shoved it in his pocket. Sorry, Your Honor. Judge Judy stared at him for 3 seconds. You're her son, correct? Yes, Your Honor. And you want to evict your mother from her home? It sounds worse than it is. Judge Judy leaned forward. Does it? Because from where I'm sitting, it sounds exactly as bad as it is. Your mother just buried your father. How long ago was the funeral? Derek shifted. 3 weeks. And how long after the funeral did you tell her to leave? About 2 days. Someone in the gallery gasped. Judge Judy held up her hand for silence. 2 days. So your mother is grieving. She just lost her husband of what, 60 years? 61, Margaret said quietly. 61 years. And you gave her 2 days before telling her to get out. I was giving her time to adjust. Time to adjust? Judge Judy's eyebrows went up. 30 days is time to adjust? That's a month, Your Honor. To pack up 57 years of belongings and find a new place to live while grieving, that's your idea of generous? Derek opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. I have reasons. I'm sure you do. We'll get to those. Mrs. Walsh, tell me what happened. Margaret gripped the podium. My husband Richard died 3 weeks ago. Cancer. The funeral was small, just family. Derek was there. The next day I was going through Richard's things, photos, letters. I wasn't ready, but I knew I had to start eventually. Derek showed up without calling. He sat down and said, "Mom, we need to talk about the house." Derek interrupted. Judge Judy's head snapped toward him. "Excuse me, did I ask you to speak?" "No, but then don't." Mrs. Walsh, continue. Margaret's voice shook. He said the house was too big for me, that I couldn't manage it. I told him I was managing fine. He said it didn't matter. The house is in his name now and he's selling it. I had 30 days. Did he say where you were supposed to go? He said he'd help me find an apartment. Judge Judy turned to Derek. Did you find her an apartment? I looked online. Where? Various websites, apartments.com, Zillow. Show me. Derek hesitated. I don't have the links with me. Of course you don't. So you told your grieving mother she had 30 days to leave but didn't actually help her find a place. Is that correct? She wasn't cooperating. She refused to even consider moving. Judge Judy leaned back. I wonder why. Mrs. Walsh, how long have you lived in that house? 57 years, Your Honor. And you raised your son there? Yes. And your husband died there? Margaret's eyes filled with tears. In our bedroom, I was holding his hand. The courtroom went silent. Judge Judy looked at Derek. And you want to sell it? Your Honor, with respect, the house is expensive. Property taxes are over $12,000 a year. Insurance is another $1,800. I'm paying almost $14,000 annually for a house I don't even live in. What do you do for a living? I work in finance. How much do you make? Derek hesitated. About $90,000. So $14,000 is roughly 15% of your income. For a house worth $600,000 that's appreciating in value, you're not losing money, you're building equity. But I don't live there. So, Judge Judy shrugged. Sell your condo and move in with your mother. Problem solved. The gallery laughed. Derek's face went red. That's not realistic. Why not? Your mother needs help. You need to save money. Sounds pretty realistic to me. I have my own life. And she doesn't? Your mother doesn't get to have a life because you're inconvenienced? That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Explain it to me. Derek couldn't answer. Judge Judy waited. 10 seconds passed. 20. I'm waiting, Mr. Walsh. I just think she'd be better off somewhere smaller. You think? Did you ask her what she thinks? She's not being rational. Judge Judy's eyes narrowed. She's not being rational. Your mother just lost her husband and you're trying to take her home, but she's the one who's not rational. Do you hear yourself? Derek said nothing. Judge Judy turned to Margaret. Mrs. Walsh, let me ask you something. When your husband put the house in your son's name, what did he say? He said it was for estate planning, to avoid probate when he died. He said Derek would take care of me. Did he say anything else? Margaret nodded. He said I could stay in the house as long as I wanted, that it would always be my home. Judge Judy looked at Derek. Is that true? He said something like that, yes. Something like that. Be specific. He said she could stay as long as she needed. Needed or wanted? I don't remember the exact words. I think you do. And I think you're lying. Derek's face flushed. I'm not lying. Then why are you trying to evict her? Because the situation has changed. How? Your father died. That was always going to happen. What changed is you saw an opportunity to cash out. That's not true, isn't it? Let me ask you this. When your father was sick, were you thinking about selling the house? Derek hesitated too long. I thought about the future, yes. While he was dying, you were doing math. I was being practical. Practical. Judge Judy picked up a paper. Mrs. Walsh, do you have something you want to show me? Margaret pulled a folded paper from her purse. Her hands were shaking. Yes, Your Honor. She walked slowly to the bench and handed it over. Judge Judy unfolded it. Read it. Her expression didn't change, but something in her eyes did. She looked up at Derek. Did you know your father wrote a letter? Derek's confident expression cracked. What letter? Judge Judy held it up. This one. Let me read it to you. She adjusted her glasses. To whom it may concern. My name is Richard Walsh. I am writing this to make my wishes clear. I have placed my home in my son Derek's name for legal purposes. However, it is my explicit wish that my wife Margaret live in this house for as long as she wants. This is her home. She should never be forced to leave. I trust my son to honor this wish. Signed, Richard Walsh, dated March the 22nd. The courtroom erupted. People gasped. Someone said, "Oh my God." Judge Judy slammed her gavel. Derek stared at the letter. I didn't know about that. Your mother found it yesterday, in your father's desk. He hid it there for her, because he knew you'd try this. That doesn't change anything. The house is still legally mine. But it changes intent. Your father gave you that house with conditions. This letter proves it. Verbal agreements aren't binding. They are when there's written evidence of intent, and I'm holding it right now. Derek was scrambling. Your Honor, even if my father wanted her to stay, she can't take care of the house. She's 83. Judge Judy turned to Margaret. Mrs. Walsh, can you take care of the house? Yes, Your Honor, I pay the utilities. I hire people for things I can't do myself, like mowing the lawn. But I keep it clean. I maintain it. The house is fine. You heard her, Mr. Walsh. The house is fine. What about in 5 years? What happens when she really can't manage? That's 5 years from now. You're trying to evict her today. Judge Judy paused. Let me ask you something. When your father was dying, how often did you visit? A few times a week. A few times, not every day. I have a job, Your Honor. And who was taking care of him every day? Derek glanced at his mother. She was. So your mother took care of your father 24 hours a day while he was dying of cancer, and you stopped by a few times a week, is that correct? Yes. Did you help with medical expenses? He had insurance. Insurance doesn't cover everything. Did you pay for medication, treatments, anything? No. So your mother handled everything, physically, financially, emotionally, by herself, while you visited occasionally. Derek said nothing. And now you want to charge her rent and kick her out. I'm not kicking her out. I'm asking her to move somewhere more suitable. Against her will. That's called eviction, Mr. Walsh. Judge Judy picked up another paper. Let's talk about your countersuit. You're suing your mother for $15,000. Explain that. Derek straightened. She's been living in the house rent-free for 5 years, since it was put in my name. If she wants to stay, she should contribute. Contribute. How much does she pay now, Mrs. Walsh? Margaret spoke up. I pay all the utilities, Your Honor. Electric, gas, water. That's about $200 a month. I pay for any repairs inside the house. I hire someone to mow the lawn and maintain the yard. That's another $80 a month. So you're paying roughly $300 a month? Sometimes more if something breaks. Judge Judy looked at Derek. Did you know that? She pays some bills, yes. Some bills. She's paying $300 a month on a Social Security check of what, Mrs. Walsh? $1,300 a month. So she's spending almost a quarter of her income on the house, and you think she's living there for free? Derek shifted. I'm paying the property taxes and insurance. Those are the big expenses. Those are your legal obligations as the property owner. She's not required to pay those. Judge Judy leaned forward. Let me ask you this. When your father was alive and living in that house, did he pay you rent? Of course not. Why not? It was his house. But it was in your name. By your logic, he should have been paying you. That's different. How? Derek struggled. It just is. No, it's not different. Your father lived there because it was his home. Your mother lives there because it's her home. The only difference is your father isn't here to stop you from trying to profit off her. Judge Judy paused. Mrs. Walsh, let me ask you something. Have you been eating properly? Margaret looked down. I eat enough. That's not what I asked. Have you been skipping meals to afford these bills? Margaret was quiet. Mrs. Walsh? Sometimes, she said quietly. If I need to pay for something else, I'll skip lunch or dinner. It's fine. I'm not that hungry anyway. Judge Judy's face hardened. She turned to Derek. Did you know your mother has been skipping meals? No. Did you ever ask? Did you ever check on her finances? Did you ever offer to help with groceries? She never asked. She shouldn't have to ask. You're her son. Judge Judy shook her head. Your mother is 83 years old. She's living on $1,300 a month. She's skipping meals to pay bills, and you're suing her for $15,000. Do you see the problem? Derek's face was red. I didn't know she was struggling. Because you didn't ask. You assumed. You decided she was fine because it was easier than actually checking. I'm not a neglectful son. Then what are you? Because from where I'm sitting, you're a son who waited for his father to die so he could cash in. That's not true. Then prove it. Show me one shred of evidence that you care about your mother more than you care about that house. Derek couldn't answer. Judge Judy turned back to Margaret. Mrs. Walsh, if your son gets his way and you have to leave that house, where will you go? Margaret's voice shook. I don't know, Your Honor. I've been trying to figure that out. I called a few apartments, senior housing, but everything is so expensive. The places I can afford have waiting lists that are months long. So if I ruled in your son's favor today, what would happen? I'd probably have to live in my car until I figured something out. The courtroom gasped. Someone said, "No way." Judge Judy slammed her gavel. She looked at Derek. Did you hear that? Your mother would be living in her car. She's exaggerating. Is she? You're giving her 30 days to find a place she can't afford. What else is she supposed to do? I wouldn't let her live in her car. What would you do? Let her move in with you? Derek said nothing. That's what I thought. You don't actually have a plan. You just want her out. Judge Judy stood up. The whole courtroom shifted. She walked down from the bench and stood directly in front of Derek. Look at your mother. Derek glanced over. No, turn around. Really look at her. Derek turned. Margaret was crying silently, shoulders shaking. Her hands gripped the podium so hard her knuckles were white. That woman gave birth to you. She raised you. She fed you. She drove you to school. She sat up with you when you were sick. She loved you unconditionally for 38 years. And this is how you repay her? By trying to take her home 2 days after she buried your husband? Derek's eyes were wet. I don't know what to do. Yes, you do. You just don't want to do it, because it requires you to put her needs before yours. I have my own life. So does she, and hers just fell apart. The least you can do is let her grieve in peace. Judge Judy walked back to the bench, sat down, looked at both of them. Here's my ruling. Mrs. Walsh, you can stay in that house as long as you want. Mr. Walsh, you're going to leave her alone. No pressure, no apartment listings, no mentions of selling. You let her live in peace. And if I hear you violated any of this, I'll hold you in contempt. Are we clear? Derek's voice was barely audible. Yes, Your Honor. As for your countersuit for $15,000 in back rent, dismissed. You don't get a penny. The house may be in your name, but she has every right to live there. Your father made that clear. Judge Judy picked up her gavel. Case dismissed. The gavel came down. Derek stood there frozen for a moment. Then he grabbed his phone and headed for the door. Judge Judy called after him. "Mr. Walsh." He stopped. Didn't turn around. "Your father wrote that letter because he knew he couldn't trust you. He knew you'd do exactly this. And he tried to stop you from his deathbed. Think about what that says about the kind of man he was. And the kind of man you are." Derek stood there for 5 seconds, then walked out. The door closed with a heavy thud. Margaret collapsed against the podium, sobbing. The bailiff rushed over. "Ma'am, are you okay? Do you need to sit down?" "I'm okay," she managed between sobs. I need a minute. Take all the time you need." Margaret pulled out Richard's letter. Read it again through her tears. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold it. "He knew," she whispered. "He knew this would happen." The bailiff stood nearby, giving her space, but staying close. After a few minutes, Margaret folded the letter carefully and put it back in her purse. "Thank you," she said to the bailiff. "You don't have to thank me, ma'am. I'm just glad you get to keep your home." Margaret nodded and slowly made her way out of the courtroom. Outside in the hallway, Derek was on his phone, pacing back and forth near the elevators. "Yeah, I lost," he was saying. "No, the judge is completely insane. She's letting my mom stay in the house. Can you believe that? I know, it's ridiculous. I'm going to appeal this. There has to be a way around it." Margaret came through the door. Derek didn't see her at first. He kept talking. "She played the victim perfectly. That's what she does. She manipulates people, and everyone fell for it. The judge, the whole courtroom. It was a performance." Margaret stopped walking, just stood there listening. Her heart was breaking all over again. "She's always been like this. Ever since I was a kid. She knows exactly how to make people feel sorry for her, and now she gets to keep living in my house rent-free while I pay all the bills. It's bullshit." Margaret felt something inside her chest shatter. Not her heart. That was already broken. This was something else. Hope, maybe. The hope that underneath all the greed, her son still cared, that he might still love her, but he didn't. The boy she raised was gone. Or maybe he was never really there. She started walking toward the exit. Her cane hit the floor with each step. Tap, tap, tap. Derek heard it, turned around, saw her. "Mom," she kept walking. "Mom, wait." She didn't stop. Derek ended his call and jogged to catch up. "Mom, please, can we talk?" Margaret pushed open the exit door, stepped into the bright sunlight. It hurt her eyes. Derek followed her outside. "Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to go like this." She turned to face him, really looked at him. "Yes, you did. No, You planned this. You waited until your father died, then you made your move. I was trying to help." "Help?" Margaret's voice shook with anger. "You were trying to help yourself. That's not fair." "Fair? You want to talk about fair?" Margaret's voice was rising now. "Let me tell you what fair is. Fair is honoring your father's wishes. Fair is taking care of your mother when she needs you. Fair is being a decent human being. You haven't done any of those things. I'm trying my best." "No, you're not. You're doing what's easiest for you." Derek ran his hand through his hair. "Look, I know you're upset." "Upset? I just heard you on the phone. I heard what you said about me." Derek's face went pale. You heard that?" "Every word. You think I manipulated people? You think I was performing?" "Mom, I was just venting. I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did. That's what you really think." Margaret's eyes filled with tears. "I'm your mother. I gave birth to you. I raised you. I loved you. And you think I'm manipulating people?" "I'm sorry. I was angry. I wasn't thinking." "No, you were thinking. You were thinking about yourself. Like you always do. That's not true. Isn't it?" Margaret wiped her eyes. When did you last think about me? About what I want? About what I need? Derek opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Nothing came out. That's what I thought. Margaret adjusted her grip on her cane. Your father would be so disappointed in you.